It's time for the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia. Special guest who has already popped on the screen. Didn't even need to invite him. He's just there, ready to go. But before I introduce our guest, in fact, I'll leave that to you, Terry Messenger,
Thank
the
you,
absolute,
Aaron
the
Malloy.
master. Look at that. That's me, Aaron Malloy. I have a name.
You are
I
Aaron Malloy. It sounds so radio-ish.
Does it really?
It really does.
Jeez. I've seen it written on toilet walls and everything. It's very legit. Yeah. Great to see you.
Thank you. It is good to you as well. At the happy hour.
Happy hour,
the
indeed.
Happy Hour Genius Zone. It is 5 p.m, guys, here in Perth, WA.
It is, most definitely. And I tell you right now, I'm often the person with the brightest clothes in the room. Well, have I just been knocked for 6, right? Would you like to give a little introduction to our wonderful guest?
Never to be outdone.
Never.
Okay, so our next guest, with no further ado, is a scientist who curates truth, purpose, and human potential. Jonathan Frost, this gentleman holds a PhD as a semiconductor physics and brings over 100 hours, Aaron Malloy, of transformative coaching experience. Now, the world might be going, well, how do you take a guy with a PhD, a scientist, and then throw him into a NLP coaching kind of a course?
Why not?
You know, but why not?
Yeah.
But there's going to be some really good explanations on the show about that. So with no further ado, hello, Jonathan. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, great. So 5 p.m. over there, and it's 10 a.m. over here. So I've just had my breakfast. Great to be here. Nice to see you again, Terry. Thanks.
Yes, and you. And so, you know, what can I say? I know where you are, but can you tell our listeners where you are?
Yeah, so I'm in Sheffield, United Kingdom, the home of stainless steel, and that's about 2 hours north of London.
Well, what is something to be proud of? I mean, stainless steel, it's a fine product. You're doing well.
There's no replacement. It's still going strong after whatever it is, 100 years.
Very good to hear. Look, there's a lot of great things that come out of the countryside of the UK, and I think Sheffield is. Would we still call it the countryside, or am I just being
what locally we call it the biggest village in the UK?
I like that.
So basically, I fix computers, and everyone knows everyone. So you get a new client, and they say, "Oh, do you know?" But they know. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I used to go to school there.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. Well,
it's a small world.
It really is.
It really is a small world. So, you know, we've got some questions that have come in. I've told my community all about you, Jonathan, and they did listen to our podcast, and they were very intrigued, and they were probably as intrigued as what I was to learn that as a coach, one of the things you said is that you only earned $50 as a coach.
Now, you've brought this up before. That's a bit... I don't know what the cost of living is like in that neck of the woods, but $50 is not going to go very far here in WA. That's an amazing sort of amount. Do you want to expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so 50 UK pounds would get you a meal for 4.
Right.
Nice.
There we go. So 50 quid.
Yeah, so I think I earned my first £10 about 4 or 5 years ago. So I could say I was a professional coach.
I like that.
What I was talking to Terry about was that I instead of offering myself as a coach, because some people are saying that the word coach has been a little bit tainted in the last couple of years. Everyone and his dog is a coach. So instead, I use coaching principles in every business interaction I have.
Okay.
I was saying I used to, so in the fixing computers, it used to be very transactional. Computer broken, fix computer, $50, buy. and now it's, oh, nice to see you. What do you mainly use the computer for? Oh, I use it to keep up with da-da-da-da-da. Oh, I use it to help run my charity. Oh, can you tell me more about your charity? Oh, where do you normally get your da-da? You see what I mean? It now starts as a beginning of a conversation. You find out more about the client, where you're aligned, how you might keep, I'm sure we're going to get onto value, but how you can add genuine value to the conversation.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, I don't much like, I think the world's moved on a lot when it comes to business community. We don't want sales anymore. We actually build relationships. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Like know and trust factor.
Yeah.
And, real people. And I love the fact that, what you did say is that it expanded what you do as a technician. So taking the coaching, it kind of amplified everything that you were doing. And, that brings me to saying, Anthony Robbins saying is that you will get the level quality of the answer of a question to the quality of the question asked. And we know that as a practitioner of NLP, questions are the absolute cornerstone.
Of course they are.
And if you don't know how to ask questions, you will not be able to make those same inroads and have those same breakthroughs. But let's go over to you about that, Jonathan, because, you have firsthand experience of how you've developed, your own intellect and everything that you do. And then you've ignited everything through the power of knowing how to ask the right questions. So can you just open that up for us first?
Yeah. So in my coaching world, I'm in an international coaching organization called Acology. And some of the rules include, broadly speaking, you're only allowed to ask questions. You can't, you can't fix anyone because no one's broken. And all the solutions are in our client already. So you've just got to help them see inside themselves what they can do for themselves. So it's all about asking the right question, and usually like 90% of the time, open questions.
Yes.
Have you considered? Give me a specific example of how does that? Yes, and not yes or no questions. Usually there are exceptions, but so that's worked very well for me. Nice open-ended questions. Again, I'm contradicting myself here, but one of the most important things I learned was shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen. Jeez, I tell you what, thank you very much. Look at this. I'm being looked after. I know it is breakfast time over there in the UK. Why not, right? Why not indeed? Cheers to you. There we are. I was going to actually make the comment of very much that I'm a big believer in you have two ears for a reason, one mouth, okay? If you're going to be truly successful with, changing attitudes of yourself even, be prepared to listen to people and actually take this, and don't be sitting there listening, preparing an answer. Actually genuinely listen.
Oh, yeah. And, we get trained in NLP how if you are listening, because the person will be able to ask a question that is not really for them so much to get the answer, but for the other person to find the solution. Like as Jonathan just said, this is not about broken people or giving advice. And it is so powerful, the profound answers that you can get just by knowing how to ask those right questions. So what does it take, Jonathan, for a person to learn to become a coach in the industry you did? And you actually really did very similar work to what I've done. And so, what happened for you in your life personally when you went into the coaching space after the many, many years of your scientific brain and logic and everything else? What happened to you and what did that mean for your life?
Yeah, so from like a very early age, I've always liked helping people by fixing things. But again, very transactional. And then when I entered the coaching space, I sort of got it at that next level. Not a simple how can I help you do that, which is again pushing the solution onto someone. Now as a coach, seek to understand. This is one of the other presuppositions, one of the fundamentals. Seek to understand where that person is, then help them pull out the concept of self-responsibility.
Oh, hang on. Did you just use the term self-responsibility? Oh, you are absolutely preaching to the choir on this one. People just don't do it anymore. People just don't want to own their own stuff.
Yeah. One of the I can never remember the full 7 words quickly, but this came up in a conversation yesterday, and people liked my 7 banned words. The 7 banned words for victim, which is something like should, would, try, just.
And we're all guilty of it, right?
If you catch yourself saying any of those words, you know you're making excuses.
Yeah, look, they make me go grr, actually. Like, firstly, Anthony Robbins says, when you say, I should have done this and you should have done that, well, then you're shooting all over yourself. You know, that's how he puts it. And also trying. Okay. Well, if you say, well, I'm trying to do this, it is saying that you really didn't do it. So really it's a negative word. And of course, the other one, which you would be familiar with, is but. So somebody could say, I believe you are the greatest person I've ever met in my life. But now the moment they say but, it negates everything they just said. It's a negation word. So it's interesting how you discovered the magic of words. And obviously, you know, can I ask this question to you? Did you do it for self-transformation? And because I know that many different people do it for different reasons when they come into the world of NLP, you know, whether it is to resolve a lot of history patterns and trauma, or whether it is the art of, you know, communication skills.
And none of the above for me. It was actually really funny story. I wanted to expand my computer business, and I sort of picked up this idea of franchising, and I thought, yeah, I can see the principle there. You want to be a portal, not a one-man band. There was a franchise exhibition in Sheffield. Someone came up and said, and talking about franchising in general, but then said, do you want to come down to a free meeting down in London? Two free places, and I'll talk a little bit more about the other sort of more holistic side of business. And that was it. I already knew that I needed to be more of a people person.
Okay.
And so I'd heard about NLP. And so that came together. Heard about NLP. Someone comes up about being more of a people person, go down to London. And that started my 8-year journey into personal development world, this guy, and then the Tony Robbins and that sort of style, motivational. The joke being now that I feel I've come out the other side.
Okay.
I said to Terry that I got a bit suspicious. I got a bit skeptical when I kept seeing the same people at the motivational events.
Yes.
It can't be working if I'm seeing you every 3 months being motivated again.
No, they're just addicted. You know,
maybe that's the difference.
It is a very addictive industry, because who doesn't want to feel good, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And,
get your little dopamine and off you go.
This is it. And when you come into this kind of a world, this is absolutely ironic. And what I love about this is that we're going to move into the AI now, which is really, you know, up your alley in the world of technology. But let's face it, the world is now leading forward with artificial intelligence in both a good way and a not so good way. But I guess, you know, we're going to go over to Aaron in a moment. He's got some amazing questions that have come in from my community. So they'll come up in a moment. But yeah, artificial intelligence.
I'm terrified of AI. Not going to lie. I mean, I know I've got to embrace it. I know. Okay, I know that we're already using it here at Edge to a small degree. I get it. If you're not going with it, quite frankly, you're going to be left behind. But here's my argument with all of this. I have watched the Terminator movies. Okay, so for me, come on.
You're scared of the actual people. Are
look,
you scared of falling in love with an artificial intelligent woman?
No. I've been married before. No, no. I do. Look, I think that ultimately, look, if you give anything too much power, a person gives. If they've got too much power, that's what happens. So if we give something that hasn't got a soul too much power, that gets a bit risky.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you look at it that way, but look, everything, like even in the world of NLP and hypnosis, my mother still says to me, can you not use the word hypnosis? Okay. And look, it took me years and years before I decided the school that I was going to go through, which is Milton Erickson, clearly. Okay. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Milton Erickson model, Jonathan. No. So Milton was the man who hypnotized with his, while your eyes were open, right. And he would speak in story. So you would wonder why he's talking about the stories that he's speaking. And it's really to create the conversation and give people the answer without directly answering. So he's a very, very clever man. And he would help people find the answers themselves. And when we look now into, on the way here, I was doing a little bit of my research on AI and how could AI be a threat to perhaps someone like myself, because this is the whole question, Jonathan, and that is that you have artificial intelligence on one side of the coin, but it still doesn't replace humanity, does it?
The better it gets, the more it does. So there's the danger zone as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So
shall we jump into these questions? What do you think?
I reckon we will.
Let's do just that. Let's jump on the old big screen so we can actually see what's going on here. So would you like to read this one?
I can. So this is Brandon from your neck of the woods, Jonathan. You were a scientist. They heard your podcast with me, obviously, for over a decade. What made you switch paths and how did coaching make such a big difference in your life?
Oh, thanks. Absolutely lovely question. So when I was little, that means when I was 21, then I thought I was going to save the world by science. So I did my 12 years of research in semiconductor physics, really cutting edge stuff, basically make the world a better place through technology. But now I've come to realize that we sort of have all the technical solutions we need. We don't, to fix things, we don't actually need more knowledge. We need more wisdom. So there's the two sides. There's tech and there's mind. And we got all the tech, and now we need to work on the mindfulness side of things. It's all the people related stuff. Yeah. If we look around the world at the moment, it's people making bad decisions. It's not actually the underlying tech that's faulty necessarily, with a few exceptions.
Well, with the AI thing, it is very much, let's face it, AI is as good as the information that's put into it, right? So if somebody has got nefarious sort of reasons behind or thinking behind, then the AI is going to be that way. It's just, ultimately we need to give it as much information as possible, but at the same time it must be based, in my opinion, in ethics. Right?
Absolutely. And would it be fair to say, in any case, with Brandon's question here to you, that the question could also open up, well, did you change paths? So do you believe that, or do you believe you took that coaching with you into your life to amplify everything you do?
Yeah, so that's really the answer to the second part of Brendan's question. I've moved from focusing on tech and material to a great deal of focus on person. It's the people side of things. It's the values and the ethics now. Moving forward,
I like that.
Moving forward, I say my new little book is called Be a Valuable Human.
That's very simple and straightforward, and
you can take it as a command It's not how to be a.
The command.
It's just do it. I don't really care how you do it.
It reminds me just of something, Jonathan. In my past, many, many years ago, I actually had the pleasure or insanity of being a professional rally driver, right? So you've got a co-driver, you've got this fantastic team, you've got the car going on, and I had a team manager who was, fantastic, always made sure everything was all done and very organised. And he said he made some sort of comment once that I always liked, as far as, we've prepared the car, the team's all together, we've got complete control of every part of it, except for the organic bit between the steering wheel and the seat, right? And it's kind of true, right? You can get everything right, like all the technical side. You can do all of the tech can be absolutely spot on, but ultimately it comes down to that organic part, the human being.
As Henry Ford said, if you think you can and if you think you can't, you're right.
You're absolutely right. Exactly. That's spot on.
Brilliant. Let's jump to our next question then. Let's go here. What have we got? Okay, this is from Janet from Queensland. Hello, Janet. Lovely to have you.
Hello, Janet.
Yes. Now
didn't get to coolies this year.
Oh, there we go. Janet. You know everybody, man. You get around. Tell you what. Now AI seems to have replaced a lot of jobs, but doesn't feel moral. Okay. When is using AI as a tool that is a benefit rather than a threat?
Yeah, that's actually quite a third level question, because many people have different definitions of AI. There's so replaced a lot of jobs. So the one that I think is sort of the most obviously damaging is AI image creation.
Mm-hmm.
So AI image creation, it's widely acknowledged that it only works because it's stolen original artists' material,
right,
without permission. And I think that's I think that's the clearest case of the AI companies being naughty. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a situation right now where because of AI, the most successful supermodel in the world is not a real human being.
Who's that?
I don't know her name, right? But I saw this the other day. I'm going through stats on AI.
It wasn't Safiotti.
I don't know. No.
She's not a model. But
Not at all. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I'm trying to accept it, I guess, and just be ready for it. And one of the things came up that the most successful model at the moment in the world, that she's making, tens of millions of dollars, absolutely huge figures, is completely fake, doesn't exist.
Gosh, it's scary, isn't it? So you might think you might walk into a bar and meet the girl of your dreams, and she might end up being artificial,
Oh, well, this particular model is only actually on the screen, so they haven't actually made a model out of her, so to speak.
Not the robot.
No, she's not a robot just yet.
Like Elon Musk's robots.
That's so next year. Right?
Because, I mean, Kardashians, they sometimes look a bit artificially intelligent, don't they? No offense. I do have a lot of respect for the Kardashians.
Oh, I don't. But, zero. But
Jonathan, I use AI very basically. And, to my way of thinking, when you're using AI, you do kind of, if you're going to put your heart and soul into it, because I think you would know this, that a lot of coaches in the coaching space, they'll have virtual assistants. So those virtual assistants might be social media managers, for example, and be, pumping out a lot of posts to intrigue people and call in their dream clients. But one of the most difficult things is for a virtual assistant to know your voice, right? And what I have come to know is that you can go into AI and, the voice of you is so important, because if you're not using that voice, I mean, who are the dream clients then attracted to? So, to my way of thinking, when you're using AI, you're having to feed it and be quite clever about what you're feeding and instilling in. So, for example, can you please create a post that is going to speak on the magic of technology and how to create an incredible technology program and funnel, let's say, for example, but can you do it in the voice of Jonathan Frost and Aaron Malloy, and put a little bit of, this person into it and this person, and AI will literally go out and find the voice of even remote people that might not think that they're on the internet, and be able to compile it. And to me, that is very, very clever. But where do you see it as drawing a line in the sand, and what do you believe is the correct, and I guess with Janet's question, and it's so typical of Janet to ask that, when is it moral and when is it unethical?
Absolutely. So I think that's really good question for Janet, the part 2, when it's using it as told as a benefit. So AI in the form of LLMs, the large language models, they are incredibly good at research. They're very good at research and summarizing. So, for example, in the geography and climate change world, one of the good uses of AI is to look at thousands and thousands of satellite images of the rainforest, and it can tell you where the naughty people are logging. And no human could keep up because there's such a large area. There's no way you could keep up. So that's an example in the image space. And then in documentation and research. So this was a little story from a couple of days ago. I asked one of the AI systems, Manasta AI, I said, can you please have a look round and find 50 examples of where big oil companies have been a bit naughty in their narrative? And I set it going, and it was taking a bit of a long time. And I thought, what's going on here? And I said,
that's why.
And it was a bit of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Anyway, so I stopped it, and the AI program had been looking around the web, and it had found 311 examples over the last 5 years, each with their individual website and reference, independent, of where big oil companies had done naughty things like infiltrating climate change organizations and distorted the truth here and there, and generally being naughty. So that, again, how long would it have taken me to use Google to search the web for all the newspaper websites to find 311 examples of misinformation?
But here's a question on that one, because I completely agree with everything you've just said, except for this. Well, I'm not disagreeing. It's more just the question of the fact that Google is not always trustworthy. Okay, that's a fact. I've done an experiment many years ago where a friend and I in the same room actually Googled the same thing at the same time and got 180-degree different answers. One was designed for a woman, one for a man. Okay. So Google, being the authority on everything, is not true. So you're right. When you were going out and doing that research, you've got to really go to great depths to find out the information. Just taking Google at face value is just not accurate.
Yeah, that's why I insisted. I said, give the original source.
Great.
And that comes from in science and science writing. You can take inspiration from anybody in the world, and the rule is so long as you reference them.
Yeah.
So you're not plagiarizing when you say, I am standing on the shoulders of giants. They are person A, person B, person C. It's when you claim something as your own and claim that you invented it when really you just saw it on someone else's YouTube. That's a bit dodgy.
Very much so.
And I guess that answers Janet's question in a really big way. And I know that, I've got so much to thank AI for, because, it also helped me on the side of things when my house got trashed last year. And rather than getting a lawyer, I got AI to write to my insurance company, but I had to feed all of the information that was valid and relevant. And then I said, can you please speak in legal terms?
Gotcha.
And I sent that off to the insurance company. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full, sir. I got a absolute record return on insurance that turned around within 12 weeks, which is pretty huge for a house.
Yeah.
House insurance, which is pretty big. But let's go over to the next question.
Let's do that. Okay. So our next question comes from Ronnie in Perth. It's great to see some Aussies having a go. It's always great. So Ronnie has asked, there are a lot of people being made redundant in my corporate field. I'm constantly in fear that I'll be next. Do you have any suggestions for me in my career being a middle-aged woman?
Again, an awesome question, relevant to all of us, including me. You can replace
you're not a woman
with an AI coach. So part one is the question is, what can you do? What's in your skill set and your humanity that AI can't do? That's part one. That's true for all of us. What makes a human rather than an AI? And part two is, as they in England they say, get genned up, learn about AI.
Right.
So if you've got 2 people, one person versus one person that knows how to use AI, who are you going to pick? So
no question.
Don't be replaced by you. You won't. Most people won't. Most people that we are contemporary with, they won't be replaced directly with AI. They'll be replaced by someone that knows how to use the tools efficiently.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make that positive. So know what the AI can do. Learn what AI means. Learn which ones are the best. Learn their little foibles.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And, even like as a coach, if we're doing social media and we're doing a rollout of, maybe the next 2 weeks of posts, if we've got a launch or something, you still need to feed AI exactly what you want and what it is that you want, the deliverable, what your client's going to get. But where I believe morally and ethically, AI comes into play without taking away humanity is that you can say, okay, so now create me 2 weeks worth of posts for social media. Then can you leverage it for me and then create it as in a lead generation and turn that into a message? Oh, and by the way, can you also knock out an email campaign that's going to be repurposed from that? So all of a sudden you've got a copywriter, an email marketer, a social media manager. You've got all of these elements, but you still needed to know what you wanted.
So true.
Because if you don't know what you want and you don't know, exactly what you're going to give to your client, then, on that scale of things, it's going to fall flat anyway. So you've got to learn to use AI. I think that's what I'm trying to say, Jonathan.
Yeah,
do you agree
that's
with
exactly right. I've found AI very good for making a framework.
Okay.
So I want to do this. So please, can you give me a framework of how I should go about marketing my book? And it goes, well, you should do this in this order. And you go, oh yeah. And it's like a reminder of what you should be doing. And then the specific prompt, when you were talking to make social media posts, the prompts that seem to work well are something like, imagine that you're an ethical, lovely, female, 40-year-old NLP coach. Now please write an emotional post that connects A with B. And the more you get it aligned with your character, the better it does.
Powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, actually, going back to, I'll jump a question back to what Janet was saying before about, as far as, well, she was worried about losing her job. Okay. And I think a lot of us are feeling that way. And a word that you used before, copywriter. Well, I'm actually a copywriter. So, I do feel that pressure because people are going, throw it in ChatGPT, it'll throw it out. the thing is, AI, for what I can certainly see, doesn't understand the psychology of things, doesn't understand the emotion of human beings.
Of course it doesn't.
So it doesn't do as good a job, and you can tell. Now, every day it's getting better and better and better. But to your point there, Jonathan, is I was very much against it, very resistant to it. But I actually thought, okay, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to save myself some time. I'm very, very busy. So I'll use it for the framework. And then from the framework, I'll use my inspiration, my knowledge of, my skills in that field, and I will turn it into something special. So still, even though I'm still doing the work, it has saved me a great deal of time.
But see, also, Aaron, because you're creative, so I can relate to that because I'm creative too.
Yep.
But the fact is that I find it very difficult to put things into order.
Okay.
So for someone like me who's apparently got a high IQ, but I didn't know that, but I'm saying that because I could have been quite easily mistaken because it didn't come out that way in school. I really suffered because I couldn't organize my thoughts and I couldn't order things properly.
Okay.
So now that I've got my creativity and what I know and my knowledge, because I'm not silly even so, and you pump it into AI, it's like my best friend and my boyfriend and I just absolutely, I value it. But I do understand that there's always the evil side of everything too. So, I get that. But it's with everything.
But you've brought up a very good point, and I don't know how Jonathan feels about this coming from a scientific background, but because you're quite a contradiction there, Jonathan, in a very, very good way.
That's why I knew you'd like it.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. Okay, people who are creative are normally a little disorganized. Okay, it is just a natural part of being creative. So it is very, very. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it.
Okay.
And that's why creative people struggle, even with a very high IQ, struggle at school. They struggle with structure, all of that.
Yeah, right.
So maybe this, because no, that's not always. I have seen very much AI coming up, and I've seen it as the destruction of creativity. But perhaps it's not. Perhaps it is actually a way, if we harness it and use it properly, we can actually, enhance that creativity and create that structure we need.
It amplifies mine because it puts all my creativity into order.
Right.
So what I couldn't do before, but at the high level of using AI, I probably couldn't do it.
Okay. Should we jump on to the next question?
Yes.
We're going to jump across the ditch right now. We're going to go to New Zealand. And Lance from New Zealand, g'day, mate. Thank you very much for sending in a question. Lance says, I have always been fascinated by NLP, but but I am an engineer. Would it benefit me to learn the practitioner's course? I have no intention of becoming a coach. I know the answer already.
The short answer is yes.
Yes.
That was the best question. Yeah.
The longer answer for me is that I was self-aware enough to know that I needed to be more of a people person. So I a year or two ago, I would have said I was 90% rational, 10% emotional, or 95-5, and now I'm pushing towards maybe 70-30. So.
In a world with computers, you are. I mean, absolutely. Look, science is, again, a structured sort of thing. I mean, everything is about why, though, but which is very, very important. I mean, science to me is asking questions, but it's very structured. Computers are very structured. I mean, it's all ones and zeros. Let's face it, right? So it's very interesting because I find a lot of people who are very, very good in the scientific world or great in the computer world are not so hot when it comes to interpersonal relationships, right? I've got friends who are incredible, and I say this with love, geeks on the computer, right? Really, really talented. Can't talk to a girl, So to me, it's a different part of your brain. And again, and the hat off to you on that one because you're kind of going, okay, I know what I need. All right, I'm going to actually be honest with myself. I know I've got to improve that part of my personality. Or change just to benefit your own future, I guess.
Yeah.
And this one specifically, there's a joke. It applies to computer coders and engineers, which is they said 90% of computer coders' job is understanding what the client means.
Oh my
changing
goodness.
what they
What an
say to
oxymoron.
what they mean in terms of coding. And so all the coders said, well, we're safe then, because AI cannot understand someone's. I want a website which is like, and it gives the impression of what?
Yes, exactly.
That's a
Yes.
great point.
And same with an engineer. I want a machine that does this with this. Okay. What do you mean by what? What do you mean? What do you mean? So it's extracting the clean language from the client is probably a good part of the job.
Yeah.
I can't do that yet.
And clean language, by the way, everyone, is where you are not getting in the mud with your client or with the other person.
Okay.
So you are able to keep it clean, literally. So there's the clean language is you might go and pay, $10,000 to learn it, and you are asking one question.
Okay.
And then? But
Sorry,
you've got to know how you've got to know how to utilize it. But Jonathan knows what I'm talking about. I would actually also add for that question that came in. Look, when I began as a therapist, I was really teaching and training people in NLP, not so that they would become coaches, so that they could learn that skill set, so that they could do what Jonathan has done, where you heard the metaphor, he made $50 as a coach, but then what happened to his business on the other side? And needless to say, Jonathan, that kind of went north. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. So broadly speaking, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but we're talking about the transition between a $50 transaction and $1,000 sort of computer transformation or a bigger project.
Yeah.
Because you're finding what the client wants at a slightly deeper level, which will use. It will turn from a simple transaction to maybe project managing.
Okay.
So the answer to that is, go and do the practitioners. I didn't do NLP practitioners to become a practitioner. I did it because my husband at the time wanted to clean me up and make sure that I was all good.
Right.
And he said, go and do that course. And that's the way most people do it. And then, of course, because it amplifies your words, and your words are your wand, right?
So I think might summarize it as improve your communication skills, because everything's people. It's absolutely fundamental to everything that you can communicate clearly and empathetically with your client.
It's beautiful. A great point. That's
so well said. Have we got another question before
No, I believe we do.
Is that it? Okay.
That is all our questions for today.
That is all our questions. So, this is the question I ask on my podcast, and this is the question I'm going to ask on Edge Radio Australia. And that is that, in relation to all of these questions you've heard from people, from the lady who sees redundancies happening, possibly as a result of AI taking over, and, people like Janet asking the question in terms of what's moral and what's ethical and what's not. What would you say to the person that's probably your ideal client, Jonathan, the person that is praying to meet you and to have your service and your deliverables and everything that you can do for them, whether it's technology or whatever? What would you say? What would be some of the tips that you would speak out on Edge Radio here, so that we can hear, your gold and your wisdom?
So for me specifically, in general, I'm really focusing on what does it mean to be a valuable human on the two sides. So there's the mindful humanity bit. We're all valuable because we're all wonderful and unique, as is every animal and every plant is valuable. I get that, but if you're talking about earning a salary tomorrow and paying the bills, how are you valuable in a more rational and practical sense, and we just need to be both. So that's
yeah.
If we're talking about AI today, then very broadly, think positive. Try and pull out the positive aspects without going into the world of toxic positivity, because it is going to be tricky, but we can focus on how we can use technical developments to our advantage.
Absolutely. 100%.
Great point. Great point.
So well said. You know, Jonathan, I have a lot of respect for you, you know, with all the knowledge and everything that you've shared on the podcast and here on Edge Radio. And I just want to say a big, huge shout out to you. Thank you for, you know, coming on and imparting some of your wisdom. And I know there's so much more, but we'd probably need another couple of days to
We can bring him back.
That.
I mean, you know,
absolutely.
We're big budget here, mate. We'll fly you over. Okay.
There you go. We're holding you to that.
I'm completely lying, by the way, on both fronts. But no, I'm very happy to have you back on the show, mate. I think you've got some great insight there. And one thing that I think stands out to me is people who have experienced different worlds. Okay, like to me, you have more credibility, quite frankly. When people have never lived that life, it's very hard for them to make comment on it with any credibility. And you've literally crossed over in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And by seeing both sides, I believe anyway, it gives you a far stronger perspective when you're relating to other people.
Yeah, thanks, homie. And so I do really feel blessed in having my feet in many different camps, from coaching to AI to tech to gardening to being a granddad.
Beautiful. Yeah, nothing on the world like it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for being part of the Genius Zone here on Edge.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Terry.